do you think about new mechanics? In Magic the Gathering, we always have new mechanics coming with each and every single set. My goal with Final Fantasy is to go through not only the new mechanics, but old mechanics, because we've got a lot of new players coming in, and I want to help everybody learn to play the game better and understand the mechanics of the game. And today specifically, I want to talk about the summons. Now, the summons are Saga creatures, which is the first time ever we've had really a Saga creature. Most times Sagas are just an enchantment and they come in. So Saga's work is they've been in Magic for a while. A Saga comes in, and when it enters, you put the first counter on it. And you trigger with abilities. This may draw a card, discard, deal damage, exile. There's a ton of them. And I'll put a bunch of these on the screen here. You can see the different ones that are out there. This one, though, we've got creatures. So they're a little bit different. They still work the same as a Saga, so you're entering as a creature. And when they enter as a creature, they're going to get that first counter on them. When they get that first counter, that triggers that ability. So if the ability says, there's one of them that says like exile a tapped creature, power 4 or greater. There's one that says like draw a card. There's one that says like create a 2/2 knight. There's a bunch of them. There's so many of them, I can't get them all, but there's a lot of them. Destroy a target permanent player owns. So there's just a ton of different ones that you can choose from in every single color. Now, it is a creature, though, so it can be removed by things that say destroy target creature, exile target creature. It can also be destroyed by things that say destroy target enchantment, because it's an enchantment creature. Now, what happens is, at the beginning of your upkeep, after you draw your first card, so you draw your card, then your Saga is going to trigger. So, first turn you cast it, number 1 triggers. Your next turn, after you draw your card, we go to trigger the second ability, whatever it is. And some of them have only 3, some of them have like 6 or 7, and so you just trigger all the way down. And every time an upkeep this. Now, you can add counters. There are ways to add it to counters away. If you add a counter, you trigger the next ability. Now, when you get to the final ability, so let's say it only has 3 chapters on it, all right? You get to chapter 3. When chapter 3 happens, it triggers, and then you sacrifice it. You have to sacrifice it, goes to the graveyard. So typically, if you only have 3 on it, you're only going to get really a turn to attack with it. So turn 2, unless you have a way to give it haste. So keep that in mind with these. Now, they have different abilities too. So some of them may have indestructible, some of them may have other abilities, but they are still creatures. So they may have flying, they may have haste, whatever. You can pump them up, you can attack with them, you can do things like that. Not only are they sitting there on your board as that, but you can use them to attack and swing out and do different things. And so that's just the really cool part about them, is also understanding, okay, do you waste your removal on these? Because in one more turn, it's going to go away. So it's a 4/4 flying. Okay, do I waste your removal on 4/4 fire? Well, if you're going to lose the game, yes. But if not, maybe you just go to the graveyard. But you also want to consider like as these triggers. So when you go to play it, it's going to trigger. Now, there are some fun different rules. I'm not going to get all that in depth, but there are ways to add and take away counters. When you take away a counter, remove a counter, it goes backwards on a counter. You trigger the ability again. The next turn, you can do stuff like that. So there's ways to like keep them in there a bunch of times and get a bunch of triggers. You can add a counter, which means it goes to the next time. There's plays that let you double the counters. It goes and triggers the first and second ability on it. There's a lot of detail, but I wanted to go basic and just tell you a little bit about the mechanic of these Saga enchantment creatures, which is really fun to see them. I'm excited to put in my Tom Bombadil deck because now I've got some extra creatures I can run out and have some fun. But these are fun. The abilities trigger. When it first comes in, it triggers. So when you cast it, it enters, it triggers, goes to 1. Then after your draw phase, you trigger 2. Then when it goes to 3 or 4, whatever the final number is, it'll trigger, and then you sack it. So now there are ways, like with that trigger on the stack, if you got a card that says sacrifice target creature, draw 2 cards, you can do that. Or as long as it's an instant, you can, while the ability's on the stack, you can do that. So there's some fun things you can do with this. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about these Saga creatures, and join us as we talk about the different mechanics. I want to help you go. Maybe there's a mechanic you've seen, you're like, I'm not sure how does this mechanic work. If you're a new player or going to be a new player or you're an old player and you have mechanics and questions, I'm going to try to break them down basic. I'm not going to go super, super deep in all of them, but I'll break them down as basic as possible so that new players and old players alike, we can understand them. But this is the newest mechanic from Final Fantasy, one of them. We'll go through all of the new ones, then we'll break into the old ones we've seen before. I thank you guys so much for being here, and as always, we'll see you next time.